Thursday morning. Dave Hughes here, and we are joined now via live hookup with one of our opinion writers here at SuperTalk, Brian Lamar. And Brian, you have one heck of a story. How you doing, sir?
I'm good, Dave. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, definitely. And you welcome to the SuperTalk family. There's snacks in the break room. I'm not sure it's going to do you a lot of good right now, though, right?
I don't think I can reach them.
That would take a plane flight. Are you currently in Japan?
Yes, I'm in Japan. It is currently 12:30 midnight on Friday, September 1st, right now.
So you stayed up late for us. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
How this is a simple question with a long, complex answer. How in the heck does a Mississippi boy wind up in Japan?
Well, I got a job with the U.S. Army working over here in Okinawa, Japan, and so I applied for it. I was working at the CB base as the public affairs director from 2016 to 2022. And then my boys were getting older. I got a 10-year-old and a 13-year-old. They're getting older, and I told my wife, I said, if we're going to go overseas and see the world with these boys, we got to do it now because they're going to start getting girlfriends and stuff and not going to want to leave. So we took off, and it's been an adventure for sure.
Well, and I think if you don't know this, you're going to figure it out. It doesn't matter where you take them; they're going to get girlfriends. It's just a question of where you're at when it happens, but it's going to happen.
That is a true statement.
Now, you got started writing. You kind of got your inspiration at a very young age, and this is the importance of doing some things to me outside of the box when it comes to educating our young people, because you never know where it's going to lead. If you would just briefly run through your story, how you got interested in writing and how you started doing the writing that you do so well.
Yeah. So every time I tell this story, I don't know, it kind of sounds more and more silly, but I got my start in writing at 8 years old, second grade. It was a Veterans Day project. Second grade teacher asked us to write a interview a veteran, and then write a story about it. And I ended up writing one on my great grandfather who was in World War II, who actually served out here in the Pacific Front. So you know, here we are, 40 years later, 30 something years later, and here I am in the Pacific as well. So I wrote the story, and it turned out so well. And I interviewed some more of his VFW buddies, and a lot of those interviews I turned into little vignette stories about their service, and then it ended up running in the Times Daily newspaper in North Alabama, and I just fell in love with writing right then and there.
And you're still doing it, and doing it to a high level. I can tell you that, because I read your piece from last Friday, and there's one thing that I want to pull out of here and mention. A lot. Would you agree with this? A lot of writing is paying attention and noticing and noting down just some of the weird, wacky things that happen that come out of left field, and then relaying them in the form of stories, because I think that captures people's attention and holds it.
You're right. I have to be aware, have my head on a swivel, be aware of my surroundings, and just kind of absorb all these little details that occur that maybe you might miss because you're thinking about something else, or you just head's not 100% in the situation. But I have to thank Ricky Matthews, great friend, and he had convinced me a while back to start jotting down some of the experiences that I had while I was here as a Mississippian who's all the way across the other side of the world and experiencing things. And he told me, he said, there's some things that happen to you that they might seem normal, they might seem odd, but they're definitely going to seem like an adventure to readers back in Mississippi. So he encouraged me to start jotting things down. And then this latest column that came out, the it was a simple interaction. We were at the Yamitan Family Support Center doing an event with they support single moms and new moms, financially burdened moms, teaching them skills of being a new mom. and one of them came over to me and just kind of pressed her uh, newborn baby, infant baby, yeah, into my face and said, "Hey, hold my baby." And and I don't know if I conveyed it well enough in the article that the Japanese aren't a touchy-feely society. They don't even shake hands really. It's a lot of bowing, and so to shake a hand, it's an extra level of intimacy that they don't usually share. So to have somebody thrust their baby in my face and say, "Hey, please hold my baby for a minute," I at first I was very honored. I was like, "Oh, well, she trusts me enough with her baby, and this is something new." And then as she started talking to me, she started letting me know that she just heard that I had come from Mississippi, and that she wanted my unique blend of, I think she called it flora, my bacteria, the makeup that was still on my skin from the tropics of Mississippi, and so she wanted that to strengthen her baby's immune system. So I went from being honored to being a little offended because she wanted my bacteria, is the way she put it. Then also being a little bit more touched, that I could be a part of their life in that way. But then, of course, I was terrified. What if this baby gets sick and then they're going to blame me?
They have to bring it back over here to get treatment, wouldn't they? It's Mississippi stuff.
Some
Correct me if
weird
I'm wrong.
Mississippi disease that they don't have an immunization for.
Did you just invent a new occupation? I mean, I really think you did. Brian Lamar, germ evangelist.
There you go. I like that. I
Yeah,
like that. It's
yeah.
got a nice ring to it.
Need a business card with that on it. But that's the kind of unique thing that happens when you get outside your comfort zone. And I've talked about this before, and I love your columns for this reason because it does give a window into things. Travel never does anything but help in your development as a person. Seeing new cultures, seeing new people, seeing new things, seeing a different way of looking at life can improve your life if you just do it, but most people don't, do they?
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, I think the vast majority of Americans don't even have a passport, and so I really encourage people to get that passport, and even if it's just crossing the border into Canada or Mexico to go just see another culture, another society, another way that people can live, you'll learn a lot about your own culture as well while you're viewing other cultures. And I tell people a lot of times, yeah, Japan is probably one of the most like exotic cultures I could think of from South Mississippi, but there are so many similarities that I find between the Japanese people and people in America, but of course, so many differences as well. And obviously, Japan, one of our America's strongest allies, and I'm over here doing a job for the Department of Defense to continue that community relations. So I try really hard to see where I can do these community relations events and outreach to where I can tie us together and build those bridges. And it's a lot of fun. Back in Thanksgiving time last year, I brought American style sweet potato pies and pumpkin pies, and they grow sweet potatoes here in Okinawa. It's a huge crop, but we use them a little bit differently. And boy, they loved those sweet potato pies. They said, "We've never had anything like this before. Give us the recipe. We're going to eat these now forever."
So you have a variety of different things from South Mississippi you're infecting them with.
Oh yeah, yeah, not just the germs.
That's fantastic, but that's what it's all about. They pick up some things from you, you pick up some things from them, and I think it strengthens people when they do some traveling and they get exposed to new things. And if you want to start small, I'm sure you've seen the same studies I have over the years. Most people never get further than 50, 75 miles away from the place they were born. They just stay right
Yeah.
there. Start by traveling within America if you want to kind of get your sea legs under you for traveling around. Go someplace And you will be amazed at exactly what you're talking about, the similarities and the differences, even within the U.S., and then you'll be ready to go overseas. Is it scary to travel over to Japan and be there? As a person from Mississippi, is it something that you should be worried about?
It's I can't tell you how safe it is. The violent crime is literally, I mean, it's 1% of what you would find in America. If you look at the statistics, violent crime just barely exists here. Barely. It trace amounts. Um, it, the people are so helpful if you get lost or whatever, and I, I get lost a lot. Sometimes when I'm looking at the signs, I know what it's like to feel illiterate, because sometimes I'm looking at the signs and I'm like, okay, I don't know where this place is and I can't read that sign. So I'll go and ask. And the first word I really started to use was
Brian,
sumimasen, which means excuse me.
hold that thought. We're up against a break. We're going to come back here in
Okay.
just a second because I'm going to keep you all the way up until 1 o'clock here on Super Talk
All right, great.
on middays. It was on a Thursday morning here on Super Talk Mississippi. Dave Hughes here, and we have with us live from Japan one of our opinion columnists at supertalk.fm, Brian Lamar, or as he is starting to become known around the world, Mr. Bear. I read the whole thing, Brian. I read it all the way to the bottom. I know what you're talking about here, but you have some great interactions that you had, and I'm sorry I had to interrupt you going into the break, but you were talking about being lost and translating the language. One thing I found fascinating is that the whole story starts. You were at the community center that night when the woman gave you the opportunity to spread Mississippi germs. You were there reading to the kids in English, right? Was that the same event?
Right. Yeah. So
Now
so one
they
thing
don't
that
they
we
don't
do.
know what you're saying.
Well, you're right. So uh, the purpose of us reading English children's books to the I mean, and these are little ones. They're most of them are speaking age, but they haven't learned. They're learning Japanese, just like American babies learning English. So the thought is that just by hearing a native English speaker on a regular basis, it will help them acquire English later in life, and that's the mentality behind it.
Well, at the very least, I think from a conditioning standpoint, it at least gets them used to it in a comfortable, safe, secure setting, and they make positive associations with the sound of the English language. So that kind of changes a lot of potential paths in their lives, I would think. But here's my question for you. This, I think, is a fantastic idea, and it's a mind-broadening thing for the kids. Why don't we do that here in America?
Well, I think about this a lot, and even myself, as much as I consider myself worldly and open to other customs, cultures, and societies, I remember coming up with a plan in high school to get out of taking Spanish. I took sign language instead, and that was my foreign language credits. And I did it again in college. And now I look back and I kick myself because I found out that I actually have an aptitude for language learning, and I've picked up a lot of Japanese since I've been here, and you know in the States, I think there's a lot of maybe a little bit of closed mindedness to the idea of one day you might just pick up and go to Japan. It just seems like such a foreign concept. And for many people, it's out of the reach. So you think, why learn Japanese? But there are so many utilities to learning language. It unlocks part of your brain that you didn't even know you had, and that's a good thing.
Well, and that's kind of the point. We kind of get in our own way sometimes, I think. And this is a great thing that you're doing, and I think it's really going to give those kids an advantage moving forward. in life, just having that kind of experience. Now, is this a permanent situation? Are you over in Okinawa permanently, or is there like a set time where you're coming back so you can bring some Japanese germs back home? What's your schedule like?
Yeah, so I have return rights back to my job at the CV Center in Gulfport, and as long as I don't stay overseas past 5 years, I can come back to my old job, and that's just kind of the way the Department of Defense entices people to pick up and move to go serve their country overseas, and so I have that ability to come back to Gulfport sometime within well, it's been a year now. Actually, today or this week is my 1 year anniversary of being here. I've got about 4 more years that I can do overseas if I want to do it. Yeah, so that's the plan to come back.
Okay, so the plan is to come back because you get. I suspect the fried chicken isn't as good there. The catfish is not the
You
same
know,
level, is it?
I've been to Korea and all over Japan now for business trips, working for the army here, and both of these countries they've got their own versions of fried chicken, and they're both so delicious. I would love to be able to get good at making it the way they make it here and bring it back to Mississippi and do kind of a taste test because I don't know which one would win. There's all three versions are so good.
I think you may be trying to climb a steep hill if you're going to change people's opinion on fried chicken, but I think it's a fight worth
Yeah.
having, man. It's a fight worth having.
So I've been a food writer for 20 years, and I never would have thought that I would go to some place like Japan or Korea and try the chicken and go, boy, let me have another. And I was just, it knocked my socks off the first time I had this. It's like a soy-based garlic and soy-based fried chicken. It's so good.
Brian Lamar, opinion columnist with SuperTalk from Japan, no less. You can find his column on supertalk.fm. Brian, enjoyed it, man. Now go to bed. It's late.
Yeah, it's 1 a.m.
Up next, we have Fox News, SuperTalk Mississippi News, and then hour number 2 of Middays in the Element Wealth Studios next.